At Thanksgiving, my mother tapped her glass, smiling the way she always did when she wanted everyone's eyes on Harper. "Your sister's wedding was wonderful," she said loudly. "So Nora, when's yours?" A few people laughed. My father kept carving the turkey as if it were urgent work. Harper said nothing, just watched me, cautious as always. I set my fork down. "I already had mine," I said. "You got invitations." The room fell into a silence so sharp it almost hurt. Then my father whispered, "We never got them." That's when I reached into my bag, and everything they'd been hiding finally surfaced. Growing up, I learned early that my family loved symmetry. Perfect photos, perfect milestones, perfect stories to tell other people. And in every one of those stories, Harper was always the center. I wasn't bitter as a child. I simply assumed that was how families worked. One child shined, the other stepped aside. By the time we were teenagers, it wasn't just a pattern anymore. It was a system. My mother curated Harper's life like a brand new showroom display. Dance lessons, cheer tryouts, an entire gallery of trophies gleaming in the hallway. Whenever something good happened to me, a science fair ribbon, a college acceptance letter, Mom would smile politely and ask if we could take pictures later because she needed good light for Harper's new headshot. I didn't break that cycle. I adapted to it. I learned to watch, to anticipate, to survive quietly. Seattle changed that. Moving 3 hours away for work wasn't rebellion, it was oxygen. I built a life of my own. A small apartment with tall windows, piles of research notes, shirts that smelled faintly of the coffee Caleb made each morning. My job analyzing water and environmental data didn't impress the kind of people my mother wanted to impress, but it mattered. It made sense to me. And Caleb, he saw me in ways my family never tried to. He listened, noticed details, remembered things. His family did too. Not because I performed for them, but because they genuinely cared. The first time Margaret hugged me, she didn't let go immediately like my mother always did, as though checking something off a list. She held on warm, steady, certain. She asked about my work and remembered specifics. Daniel did too. They weren't perfect, but they were present, and that was new to me. So when Caleb proposed on a foggy June morning by the water, I said yes without hesitation. We didn't want a grand production. We chose a small coastal chapel, invited the people who truly knew us, and kept everything simple and real. The only thing I wished, quietly but stubbornly, was that my parents and Harper would come, that maybe for once they'd choose me. I designed the invitations myself, had them printed early, and mailed them with signature confirmation because I knew my family's habit of losing things that didn't matter to them. I triple-checked the addresses. I refreshed tracking numbers like it was a ritual. When everything showed as delivered, I finally let myself breathe. Then came the silence. No calls. No texts. Not even a casual congratulations in the family group chat. Weeks passed. The wedding passed. Still nothing. I told myself 100 stories to avoid the truth. Maybe the mail got mixed up. Maybe they were planning a surprise. Maybe they were waiting for the right moment. But deep down, a colder thought took root. Someone didn't want those invitations seen. I didn't realize how right I was until that Thanksgiving night. The silence after the wedding didn't fade, it spread. It seeped into every corner of my life like a slow leak. First I waited. People get busy, I told myself. They'll call, they'll text, they'll at least ask why they never got an invitation. But days turned into weeks, and the quiet grew heavier, deliberate, not accidental. I tried reaching out. My call to Mom went straight to voicemail. Dad replied once with a polite, "I'll call later," which never happened. The family group chat we'd had since college no longer showed my name. I wasn't removed loudly. I was erased quietly. One night, while washing dishes, I told Caleb, trying to sound casual, "Maybe it's a glitch." But my voice betrayed me. He dried his hands, looked at me, and asked, "Nora, did they ever respond to the invitations at all?" I shook my head. Not even once. He didn't accuse or press, he simply said, "Let's check the logs." He helped me go through the email records, something I never could have done alone. And there it was. One opened invitation notice, deleted, permanently erased. The timestamp was exact. It wasn't a glitch. It wasn't forgetfulness. Someone had deliberately made sure no one saw my wedding. And the worst part, I already knew who. I pictured Harper standing in our parents' kitchen, flipping through the mail like she always did, deciding what was worth their attention. She had always been the gatekeeper, the one mom trusted with appointments, the one dad asked to handle bills, the one who screened calls and decided what deserved to interrupt dinner. Everything passed through Harper first. The more I thought about it, the more the pieces fit together. She'd been planning her own massive September wedding. 350 guests, designer gown, custom everything. Her entire life revolved around attention, and my quiet little ceremony threatened to take some of it away. Still, I needed proof. I pulled up the postal records. For packages, for signatures, my name as sender, their address as destination. One signature I recognized instantly, Harper's. I stared at the curl of her handwriting and felt my throat tighten. She hadn't forgotten or misplaced them. She had intercepted them. She made sure nobody saw my wedding at all. Caleb touched my arm gently. Nora, what do you want to do? I didn't have an answer. Anger would have been easier. Rage would have made sense. But what I felt was deeper, older, like reopening a wound that had never fully healed. What do you do when the people you love choose not to see you? Thanksgiving was coming. I almost skipped it, almost let them keep pretending I didn't exist. But pretending was how this whole mess started. So I made a different choice. I went, and I carried the truth with me. Thanksgiving always looked perfect from the outside. White tablecloth, polished silver, a candle flickering in the center like something from a magazine spread. But the moment I stepped through the door, I felt it again, the familiar heavy tension settling over my shoulders like a coat I never asked to wear. Harper was already posing for photos near the fireplace, her husband adjusting her hair like they were shooting a holiday card. My mother fussed over the turkey, narrating every last detail of Harper's September wedding to anyone within earshot. My father poured wine mechanically, eyes dull with exhaustion. Not one person asked how I'd been. Not one mentioned the wedding they had all missed. I took my seat directly across from Harper. She didn't look at me, she didn't need to. Silence can be a performance, and she'd always been good at performing. Dinner began with the usual script. Praise for Harper's dress, her venue, her guest list, her connections. Every word was a reminder that they had shown up for her again and again, while they couldn't be bothered to acknowledge a single detail of my own day. Then my mother tapped her glass. Your sister's wedding was beautiful, she said brightly, glancing at Harper for confirmation. So Nora, when's yours? The table chuckled. Even the turkey knife in my father's hand hesitated, as if uncertain whose side to take. Harper kept her eyes on her plate, too still, too careful. That alone told me everything. For years I would have laughed it off, let the jab slip beneath my skin, pretended it didn't sting. But not this time. Not after everything they'd buried. I set my fork down gently. I already had mine, I said evenly. 6 months ago. The air shifted instantly, like someone had yanked the oxygen out of the room. I waited, letting the silence settle before adding, you got invitations. Forks froze. Eyes widened. My mother's smile faltered. My father blinked, uncertain he'd heard right. Across from me, Harper didn't move. Her stillness was the tell. She knew exactly where this was going, and she couldn't stop it. Nora, my father said carefully, we never got any invitations. There it was, the lie, the reflexive deflection. The story they'd rehearsed all their lives without realizing it. Something inside me stilled. Not anger. Not revenge. Just clarity. I figured you'd say that, I replied softly. I reached into my bag. Not rushing, not dramatic, and placed my phone on the table. The glow from the screen reflected in the stemware, the candlelight catching its edges like a blade. Every pair of eyes followed it. This was the line I had never crossed before. The boundary I had never drawn. The moment I stopped allowing myself to be rewritten. As my thumb touched the screen, the truth swelled in my chest like a tide ready to break. The room didn't explode. It quieted, the way storms go silent right before they erase the coastline. The receipts appeared in a neat list. For deliveries, for signatures, all marked received. I zoomed in on the first and turned the phone for everyone to see. The looping, confident signature at the bottom was unmistakable. Harper. My mother gasped, a hand flying to her mouth. My father leaned forward as if closeness could make the truth less real. Mason stiffened, eyes darting from the screen to his wife like he just discovered she spoke a language he didn't know existed. Harper stayed perfectly still. I could feel my pulse in my fingertips, but my voice remained calm. These were delivered April 23rd, I said evenly. All 4 invitations signed for by Harper. Dead silence again, but this time it wasn't surprise. It was exposure. Nora, my father whispered. This must be a mistake. It's not, I said, swiping to the next screenshot. This is the postal tracking log. Priority mail. Signature required. All confirmed. All delivered. I paused, then added quietly. And all intercepted. My mother shook her head, whispering, No, no, no. That makes no sense. Harper would never. Oh, stop, I said gently, not harsh, just final. You keep saying what Harper wouldn't do. But you never look at what she actually does. That hit. My mother froze. Mason finally spoke, his voice low. Harper, did you sign for these? Harper blinked. Not slow or thoughtful but mechanical, like she was rebooting her expression. I don't remember. Maybe Sometimes I grabbed the mail, but I didn't see any invitations. I stayed quiet. I'd learned long ago that silence could be louder than any accusation, so I let it hang there. My father's voice hardened. You didn't see 4 packages from your sister. Around the time you knew she was engaged? It's not my job to track everyone's mail, Harper snapped, the first crack in her composure sharp enough to draw blood. Wrong move. My mother reached toward her, but I spoke before she could. Sweetheart, no, I said calmly. Let her talk. She's been talking for years. Harper glared. What's that supposed to mean? I didn't answer. Instead, I swiped to the final screenshot, the email log Caleb had helped me access. This, I said quietly, is the activity log for the family email. The wedding announcement I sent in April was opened from this house and deleted immediately. My father's jaw tightened. Who has access to that account? No one answered. Everyone already knew. Harper finally broke. I didn't delete anything, she said too fast. I tilted my head slightly. Then why does it show your device ID? Her mouth opened, closed, opened again. Maybe I clicked it by accident, I don't know. Why are you attacking me? I'm not attacking you, I said evenly. I'm showing you what you did. My mother exhaled sharply. Why would Harper ever hide your invitations? Why would she sabotage your wedding? That's ridiculous. There it was, the same tired defense she'd used my entire life. Why? I repeated. Because my wedding was in June. Hers was in September. I turned to Harper. You didn't want anyone talking about mine before yours. Harper flinched, like I'd struck her with the truth she'd tried to bury. That's insane, she hissed. You always twist things to make me look bad. No, I said, my voice steady. You did that yourself. Mason's chair scraped against the floor as he stood. Harper, is this true? She stared down at her napkin, her breath uneven. This is... Everyone always thinks Nora is so innocent. She never needs anything, never wants anything. She ruins nothing for anyone. She just exists and makes everyone feel. Feel what? I asked softly. Harper shot to her feet. Feel guilty. Feel small. Feel like she doesn't even have to try. There it was, the real confession. Not about the invitations but about every year that came before them. I leaned back slightly. So you hid my wedding because what? Because it was quiet? Because it didn't compete with your 6-tier cake and rented string quartet. That's not, she gasped. But the truth was already hanging in the air like smoke. Nora, my father said, his voice breaking. We didn't know. If we'd known, we would have. You would have come, I finished for him. After years of missing every milestone. After forgetting every birthday. After always putting Harper first. He closed his eyes. My mother's face twisted. You can't put all that on us, she snapped. We did our best. No, I said quietly. You did your best for Harper. For me, you did the bare minimum and called it fairness. Harper sank into her chair, her shoulders folding inward. Even she couldn't defend that. The weight of decades pressed on my chest. Not grief anymore, but clarity. I looked at the 3 of them, the people I'd spent my entire life begging to see me, and finally told the truth. I didn't lose my family tonight, I said. I just stopped pretending I had one. My mother gasped. Nora, don't you dare talk like that. Why not? I asked. Because it ruins the story you built? The one where Harper's perfect, Dad's neutral, you're the peacemaker and I'm the problem? No one said you're the problem, Dad whispered. You didn't have to, I replied. You showed it. Over and over. Mason sank back into his chair, watching the shape of his marriage quietly collapse. Nora, please, Harper whispered. That single word, please, carried years of fear, guilt, and the sudden understanding that her control was gone. I stood slowly, my chair scraping softly against the floor. I'm done begging for a place at this table, I said. I'm done asking you to show up for me. I'm done pretending Harper's choices don't hurt me. I'm done treating your silence like it means anything but agreement. I took a breath. I'm done. My father stood, reaching toward me. Nora, don't go. We can talk. We are talking, I said. For the first time, and for the last time on these terms. My mother's eyes filled with tears. We can fix this. You can't fix what you refuse to acknowledge, I replied. And you've refused for years. I picked up my coat, feeling lighter with every motion, and slipped it on. As I walked to the door, I heard Harper sob quietly. I heard my mother murmur my name like a prayer. I heard my father say, we should have checked. We should have asked. But their remorse wasn't mine to carry anymore. I opened the door, cold air rushing in, and paused just long enough to say, you didn't miss my wedding. You chose not to see it. Then I stepped outside, not slamming the door, not making a scene, just closing it firmly. A clean line drawn. And for the first time in my life, the silence that followed belonged entirely to me. Caleb opened our door before I even reached it, as if he'd been listening for my footsteps. One look at my face and he didn't ask what happened. He just pulled me into his arms and held me until the shaking stopped. No questions. No judgment. Just presence, something my family never learned. The next morning, his parents invited us over for a simple breakfast. No ceremony, no pity, just warm food, real conversation, and the kind of attention that doesn't have to be earned. Margaret squeezed my hand. Your family here, she said. Not because you married my son, but because you matter. A week later, Harper sent a long apologetic email, soft, reflective, talking about therapy and accountability. I read it. I didn't reply. My father began calling every few days, small steps, careful ones, and I let him try. Then one afternoon, a small envelope arrived in the mail. Inside was one of my own wedding invitations, creased but intact, with a note from Dad. Found this in a box in the garage. No excuses. No explanations. Just quiet proof of everything I already knew. That was the closest thing to an apology that ever felt real. My mother never reached out again. For the first time, that absence didn't hurt. Felt like an answer. I used to believe family was something you protected no matter what it cost you. But standing in my own kitchen now, Caleb cooking dinner while laughter drifted in from friends who chose me every day, I finally understood the truth. Family isn't who shares your blood. It's who shows up. It's who listens. It's who stays. And sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk away from the people who never learned how to hold you. If any part of this felt familiar, tell me where you're watching from and share your story below. And don't forget to subscribe for the next one.